Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about something kind of short and sweet, or at least we're going to try to make it short and sweet. Design interviews as a junior. So this is kind of talking about if this is your first interview, what do you do? So the reason why I want to talk about this is because right now I'm actually interviewing for a junior position on my team. So of course this is fresh in my mind because I'm literally going through doing it. So I wanted to share at least when I'm interviewing stuff that I'm looking for, so that you as junior designers, if you watch this, you can get a couple of insights maybe on what, when you go out on interviews, to be looking at or trying to do. I'm going to break it down into just a few simple sections. So first, your resume. As a junior person, I don't really care too much about your past experience. If you have some, that's awesome, of course, but it's not a make or break. What is a make or break is I need to see some kind of a portfolio. So make sure you have a portfolio, preferably a web link, but a PDF works. And here's the key part though, when you're sending your resume, if you're working through like a recruiting firm or a consulting firm or something like that, make sure they don't strip your web link or your portfolio off. I've gotten way too many resumes sent to me from firms where I've then had to go back and ask them, is there a portfolio? It's gotten to the point now where if there isn't one, I just toss the resume right then and there. Number 2 is when you show up 5 to 10 minutes early. Don't be that 15 to half an hour early person. Don't be late. Get there 5 to 10 early. If you want to get to the building sooner, wait in the car and then come in at that point. So again, it's showing that you're there a little bit early, but not too early. When you're doing the interview, what I'm really looking for when I'm doing interviews is to try to understand how you as a person think. Why are you interested in design? And how do you go about problem solving? Those are kind of the two main things I care about. And so then I can piece together, will you fit with the team? What is your skill set? All that kind of stuff. As a junior person, I'm expecting to pretty much have to train a lot. I know I'm going to be investing heavily in education and bringing your skill set up to where I need it to be. So that's why I'm not as concerned, because I know no matter what, I'm going to have to do it. But I am concerned with how do you solve problems. So when we're doing interviews, we break it into 3 sections. The first one is kind of just the, show us, tell us a little bit about yourself, your work history, the questions back and forth. We'll ask things like, have you worked on Teams before? What software do you know? What's going on in the design industry right now? What's a favorite trend? All stuff to kind of see, are you paying attention to the design world? Even if you're not actively participating, are you at least following the conversation? Part 2 is the portfolio review. Now, as a junior person, most portfolios I see have a lot of student work in it. That's fine. If you have real work, that's better, because it shows me that you know how to deal with constraints, and every project is going to have things that go wrong, right? So what I'm going to do is when I do the portfolio review, I ask specifically, show me one project, not the whole thing, pick one, and I want to know something that went good during the project, and then I want to know something that in hindsight you would do differently or change, because I'm looking to see if you can self-evaluate and try to improve, because that's what we do after every single project. We reevaluate our own process and say, hey, should we be doing this better, faster, different tool sets, stuff like that. So that's the portfolio. Don't go overboard, just have it nice and neat. Have the extra stuff if you're asked to provide it, but really focus in on just a couple so you can show your process. The third part, this is the most important part when me or my team does an interview, and that's we do a design challenge in the room when you're in that in-person interview. So it's a 15-minute design challenge where we give you a problem that would be realistic for the industry we're in, so enterprise, so think retail or travel logistics, delivery things, stuff like that. We give you a problem with limited information. We give you a whiteboard, pen, paper, whatever you need, and we just want to see how you start working through that problem. So when we give this 15-minute challenge, the goal isn't to solve it in 15 minutes. The goal is to see, do you identify the problem? Do you ask questions? Because we're going to stay in the room, and I even say, hey, we're your subject matter experts. We're your resources. Ask us to try to help us develop this. And we want to see what questions you ask. Do you take the time to understand your problem? Do you take the time to identify who your user is? What device it's going to be for? All these kind of basic things that until you know to look for them, sometimes get missed. Actually, most times they get missed. So the design challenge, it's about how you work. So here's a key point. Bothers the crap out of me. When you're given a whiteboard or paper and you're told, hey, I want to see how you work, use the tools given. I've had more than a couple times where the people literally don't do anything with the whiteboard or paper. They just sit and talk. And it's like I'm watching, I don't want to say a savant syndrome, but that's kind of what it feels like, where they're just like staring down, no interaction with us, which that's part of the whole thing, to see how do you interact in a group setting. And it's just like thinking and then coming up with an idea. Point 2 is don't focus in right away. Make sure that you do understand the problem, because again, people like to focus on one aspect of their potential solution, and then they forget everything else. So don't be that person. Actually work through and think. So one of the last ones I did actually took 12 of the 15 minutes to identify the problem, write it up on the whiteboard, really identify what value would be brought to this hypothetical business, and then start working on a potential solution. Some people jump straight into designing screens. I like the approach of actually identifying what you're doing first and making sure you have requirements and that you know what you're doing. And then the last part of our interview really is giving the interviewee a chance to talk. If you have questions, of course, I like when the people have questions and if they're intelligent questions. So feel free to write some down beforehand. A few good staples that almost not always get covered in the interview, so you can kind of keep these to ask are questions about how do the company you're interviewing with, how do their teams function? What is the team composition? What tools do you use to communicate internally? Is it email? Is it Slack? Is it Microsoft Teams? Is it something else entirely? Skype for Business, something like that. Things of that nature. So questions asking, detailed about how the company works, those are always safe bets, and usually they get missed in interviews because you're focusing on the work or the job and not kind of the mundane, things, but they show that you're thinking. So that's it, guys. That's some of my thoughts on design interviews specifically. Again, this is targeted for junior people, so as you're going through there, keep heart. You're going to get a lot of no's. That's okay. Just keep improving, refining, and looking at what could I do better. That's the key to the design process as a whole. That's what's going to make you successful in industry, is constantly being able to look at what did I do that I could do better next time. And we do that every single client. It's part of the reason why my team is in the position we are, is because we consistently are refining and improving rather than staying stagnant. Anyway, with that, guys, thank you again for watching. If any of these are helpful or valuable, give me a comment on what you'd like to see next, and we'll get into it. So, thank you, and have a great day.